The global energy market is on edge as fresh statements from the former US President Donald Trump have added to the uncertainty around Hormuz. Trump has claimed that the United States does not depend on the oil passing through the strait and has asked other countries reliant on the route to secure their own supplies. His remarks come at a time when tensions around Iran continue to disrupt global oil flow. At the same time, markets were expecting clarity on de-escalation but instead saw signals of prolonged conflict pushing crude prices higher. Donald Trump said that nations facing shortages should consider buying oil from the United States and added that countries dependent on the strait should take responsibility for securing it. Trump also criticized allies like Britain and France for not participating in military operations and indicated that the US has already done the most difficult part. However, his remark did not provide any clarity on reopening the route or de-escalating tensions with Iran, which kept market on edge. My first question is, how do you look at American abdication of Strait of Hormuz? There was no tax before the war, and now the world is left with a tax for just crossing, which was supposed to be a free passage.
So this current situation is the making of the US, of course, supported by Israel. So it all began by those attacks on 28 February. And there doesn't seem to have been any strategy behind that action. And now they have basically tried to use force, a very heavy military force, to achieve objectives which are intensely political and which could have been resolved, many of them, through negotiations. But they chose not to do that. Now they are heavily into this situation of their own making, and there is no easy exit. But the tragedy is that their actions have now led to global crisis in global economy, and everyone is going to suffer. And the mess that they have created, they are not in a position to now clean up. And he is now leaving it to the others to clean up the mess and wants to perhaps extricate himself from that situation, but doesn't know how to do it. And so that's where we are.
Do you think that Americans, sir, underestimated Iranian military resilience, if I may use the word?
They underestimated not only the Iranian military resilience, but Iranian resilience.
Okay.
They had no clue as to how Iran, politically and otherwise, would stand up. So I think there was a misreading of the situation within Iran, which was, of course, was quite serious because there were a lot of protests, etc. But they misread that situation. And they thought that Iran would come tumbling down and there would be a regime change. And they tried to, and they did wipe out the top leadership, including the supreme leader, and hoping that Iran would collapse and the revolt would happen there. But none of that has happened. And it is quite clear that Iran has stood up and is now, by controlling Hormuz, by launching retaliatory attacks, which were unexpected by them and also by the countries in the Gulf. So the situation has transformed far beyond what they really had aimed for. And they still think that there is a military solution to it. So the recent Trump primetime address, he talks about bombing Iran to back to Stone Ages while he negotiates. So this is a very unorthodox way a country behaves, and I don't think anybody really knows where the situation is going.
Keir Starmer, with other nations, they are trying to organize a meeting of the Foreign Secretary. I think the Ministry is going to attend it virtually. Do you think that this sort of a pressure can work on the United States of America, or Israel and America have really decided to go beyond these considerations, which were part of their larger Anglo-Saxon Five-Eye alliances, NATO, and they will continue to work independently like this?
I think they have gone far beyond those alliances and all this niceties about international law, diplomacy, dialogue, etc. They are into heavily into war, and whatever objectives they have set for themselves, they think that they are winning and they will achieve those objectives. And as I said, they have left it to the others to clean up the mess. And of course, there is a deep division within the NATO. But US doesn't bother about NATO anymore. And it is the other NATO countries. Now they have to really deal with the divide which has happened within NATO. So that's why this Keir Starmer's proposals, they had a meeting of some countries in, I think on 19th March. And this is a follow-up there. Okay, I mean, a lot of people are going to talk about it. But whether something can be done or no when such intense war is going on, and nobody seems to have any influence whatsoever on whether it is on Israel or in the US. And at the same time, on Iran as well. Iran is also following whatever it has set out to follow. So the combatants or the participants in the war, they have their own logic. And while the others who are suffering, they are essentially watching helplessly.
So, can we say, sir, that America has chewed more than it bargained for? Is that correct? And secondly, what is your assessment? How long this is going to last? But if you look at the statements from the American administration, not only they are contradictory, sir, but they are often misleading.
So, if you look at America's previous experience of wars, whether it is in Iraq or Afghanistan more lately, earlier in Vietnam and Korea, etc., they have never gone according to the plan. And this is generally true of wars. When countries start war, they do not necessarily go according to plans. And the plans simply disappear with the first bullet that is fired. So this is the situation with them also, because they underestimated Iran's retaliation and the scope of its retaliation and also its resilience. Both retaliation and resilience they underestimated. Insofar as how far this will go, Trump's much awaited address offers no clarity, as you also observed in your remarks. He is on one hand talking about carrying on the strikes, etc., for another, I think, 2 to 3 weeks, and yet say that we have achieved all the objectives and we are in negotiations, they are going very well. None of this is adding any clarity. It's confusing the rest of the world, but I think it's also confusing themselves. It's also a sign of confusion within their own ranks. And if you look at all the remarks and analysis which is coming out of the American strategic community, including very well experienced military and strategic experts, etc., they're also pointing out to this, that the objectives have been fluctuating, changing, and he's looking for an exit strategy but not getting one.
So before I let go of you, do you think that this entire war can reach 6th or 7th week? And lastly, how well India is braced up for the energy crisis that Donald Trump has ended up creating for the world?
I think the war may very well go into the 6th, 7th week, as if you interpret what Trump has said, because he still feels, although the objectives have been reached, their potential has been destroyed, but still nearly destroyed. Iran is still launching strikes, is capable of launching missiles and drones. So I think they will continue to attack and target that strike. And in so far as India is concerned, we have handled the situation so far reasonably well. There is no panic, at least in the country, though there are, of course, concerns. But it is anybody's guess, because now we have had some reserves which we have used. But in the end, this global crisis, energy crisis, and economic crisis are going to catch up with India as well. So we better focus on our own resilience while we do whatever we can do on the diplomatic.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you in context of the way you decoded the Hormuz crisis. But the fact is that every country in the world is facing the heat of what the Americans have done, and American economy is not depressed by it, but it's the economy of the global south which is feeling the worst. And I think that's the worst part. Thank you.